Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for the Miles Franklin channel on Friday, September 7th. And today we have a good friend of mine and a special guest who digs into the precious metals markets. That's Maurice Jackson over there of Proven and Probable, also a writer for Miles Franklin. And certainly, I guess it's always fascinating times in the gold and silver market, but especially lately, Maurice, we've seen the price get hammered again, silver down to $14. A lot of people are getting worried, concerned, although that's one of the reasons I was happy to have you on here today, because you have a great perspective on how to look at some of these things. So how are you, Maurice, and what's going on in the markets? What should we be looking at?
Well, Mr. Marcus, thank you. And to your audience, hello. It's an honor to be back on your show.
Yeah.
In reference to your question, how should we be looking at the prices and really the value proposition? I'd like to remind your listeners that money is gold and silver, and currencies are derivatives of money. The ultimate form of financial insurance are precious metals, AKA money. When I listen to the most respected names in finance, they have a common theme, and that one common theme, 9 times out of 10, is 10% of their portfolio is in physical precious metals,
Right.
which is basically their savings. And the caveat to their savings is that it's also financial insurance.
Right.
Now, you asked the question about prices and concerns that sometimes we have when the price doesn't match the thesis. And the thesis is that all currencies are being devalued because they're printing or digitizing exponentially. But sometimes price and thesis don't actually match up. And that is what we're finding out right now, which in my view is an excellent opportunity to procure more metals. And so I pose this question to you directly. Chris, if you had the opportunity to reduce your auto insurance premiums, would that be positive or negative in your eyes?
That'd be some great news.
How about your homeowner's insurance?
Also great news. Although I'm not a homeowner at today's real estate levels, but if I were, I would be glad to have my premiums come down.
What about health insurance?
Yep, we can lower those too.
So there's a consensus that I think all of us can relate to with the same answer that you provided, is that lower premiums seem to be beneficial. Now, when we talk about financial insurance, which is precious metals, the premiums right now are the lowest they've been in quite a while. And the sentiment should be favorable. And I'm a strong advocate for owning money, and I personally have been doing it for years. Whenever I receive any type of compensation for anything that I do, a minimum of 10% goes to procuring physical precious metals.
Right. Yeah, and especially it's interesting that the price of insurance would be going down at the time when it seems more than ever the need for insurance is there. And again, I can see both sides of it, because when I left Wall Street in 2012, again, I'm still learning the diversification lesson, but everything that I had saved was in bullion, mining stocks, or options on mining stocks. So it's certainly, I understand that perspective on one hand, where if you're already heavily invested in metals, of course, there's the excitement of, should the price accelerate quite a bit, which I do believe there's a lot of reason to believe it will, that yes, there's the excitement, and sometimes it can get a little tiring or frustrating waiting. Yet you raise a really good point that, fortunate now that not living off of savings anymore, but have income, that you can continue buying metals at such a low price, meaning that whatever you're saving and investing and whatever that 10% is, you are getting more metal at these prices. So again, I appreciate you sharing that perspective, because I've seen both sides, and I know everyone's situation may affect how they see it, but like you said, you're getting something cheaper that you can save and store. And again, it is money, like you point out, and certainly can leave you feeling comfortable, so you're not worried as world events unfold, right?
Absolutely. And again, we have to remember the goal is to always what? Buy low and sell high. The caveat to what you've just shared as well, it is insurance. We never want to have to use our insurance though, correct? Because that means something bad happened. But the peace of mind knowing that you have financial insurance is priceless.
Right. Yeah, so with the developments and the price changes that have taken place, there are a few different types of insurance. We talk about gold and silver a lot here. You and I, we talked a bit about platinum up in Vancouver. It was quite a pleasure to finally meet you in person there at the Sprott Symposium, which if you have any thoughts on that in general, you could share too. But again, what in terms of the different types of insurance, what are you looking at? What might it be worthwhile for people to be looking at as well at this point?
From a personal experience and professional experience, there's nothing wrong with owning any type of physical precious metals, but there are advantages and a more prudent way of doing things. So when I began, and I know many people in the same boat here, we followed a thesis, name a particular metal. And then we always try to find the lowest price so we can get more ounces, okay? But you can maximize actually, and specifically in times like this, by purchasing government minted coins versus rounds and ingots. And I'll share with you why here briefly. I travel frequently throughout the world, but it doesn't matter that I travel. It could be just make the situation specific to the person here listening here.
Right.
When you travel, a custom form is always filled out. And the question is, are you bringing in $10,000 worth of goods or 10,000 equivalent in goods to this new nation or vice versa? Well, if in hypothetical scenario, let's just say I had 10 ounces of gold. I mean, it could be from a private mint, not a government mint. The purity is just the same as a government minted coin, like a Canadian maple leaf, which is 4 nines, okay? Here's the difference in how the customs looks at these 5 ounces. Okay, so 5 ounces right now, or I should say 10 ounces, I'm sorry. 10 ounces is gonna take us greater than $10,000, all right?
Right.
If I bring in these 10 ounces that are from a private mint, then I'm gonna exceed what I'm allowed to bring into that nation, or vice versa into the United States.
Right.
With the government minted coins, the face value, that's very important here. The face value is what you get to declare.
Okay.
So I'm not bringing in $10,000. I'm bringing in $500 or $1,000 worth of goods into this new nation.
So if you want to legally travel with a form of bullion that you can take and be protected if you go somewhere else, getting the government minted coins allows you to do that safely. And how does it actually work out in practice? Does the TSA, when they see that, do they actually respect that? Or is there some guy sitting there calling the boss to look it up in the manual somewhere?
Well, you know, the best story, I think, and I will allow Andy Scheckman, our president here at Miles Franklin, can share a story with you that occurred to him about 2 years ago, and I won't steal the thunder.
Okay.
But we'll get Andy on your show or myself, and we'll have him share that story. But that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is when you are geographically diversified, meaning you have a storage account with Miles Franklin. One of the advantages, again, is that when you're having a government minted coin and it's 4 nines, we can secure it for you, specifically in Canada. But if that gold coin is 90%, then we can't. So that's something to consider, that we don't. Sometimes we own physical metals, and then the pile gets too big for us, and then we start to think, I want to go ahead and be geographically diversified, and we didn't consider that. So there's a number of perks that's going with the government minted coins, and the premiums aren't significantly different.
Yes, although apparently that's if you can get government minted coins. Again, we talked earlier today, interesting news, the U.S. Mint has, we'll find out if it's temporarily sold out of silver. Again, fascinating. In the article I was reading, saying they cited due to increased demand, which again makes it a little strange that the price is dropping at this particular point in time. So certainly we'll see how that develops. Yet the last question I'd like to run by you here. I had a friend ask me earlier this week in terms of storage, and certainly, I get it. People don't want to have maybe all of their life savings sitting in the basement. You can get a safe, but as you mentioned, having some diversification of storage. So what would your general advice be to people who are invested in gold and silver and maybe looking to get invested and wondering, right, what's the best way to do that? They hear the advantages of having the physical, yet want to still make sure it's something that leaves them feeling safe and comfortable. So what would you suggest in terms of that?
I would suggest blending and having best of the both in the best of both worlds, I should say. I'm sorry. I personally have bullion near me in a location that I can access. Mm-hmm. And I also have an offshore account in Canada because I'm a U.S. resident. I do not want all my eggs in one basket. Right. You want to be geographically diversified. And these are lessons learned from me speaking with the biggest names in the industry. This is what they do. So the geographical diversification does give you peace of mind, and you're insured. That's the other part to this. When you're geographically diversified with Miles Franklin, you're insured. Sometimes I hear individuals say, well, I'll put it into a safe deposit box at the bank. That is not FDIC insured. Whereas in Miles Franklin, you're insured. Brinks is securing it for you. And hypothetically, if something were to happen to your precious metals with us, we're going to do two things for you. We're either going to redeem it in the physical metal that you had the number of ounces, and or give you the currency equivalent. Now ask that same question to your bank.
Yeah, and actually there have been reports, Andrew McGuire has touched on it, that there are reports of some customers going to their banks in Europe asking for their metal back, and it shows up with dates that are stamped, and it's clearly different metal, or in some cases basically just told no. So certainly having your metal someplace you trust. And
let me pause for a second. By the way, with Miles Franklin, there is a third party that will come in and conduct an annual review of your account with us as well. Mm-hmm. So a third party, independent, and you can also bring in your third party as well.
Yes, I remember talked with Joel Kravitz, who runs that part of Miles Franklin, and that was one of the things I thought was really nice, where you, like you said, you can bring in your own auditor, which that's, to me, when I think of the signs of where is someone actually keeping my metal safe, where you have the Fed that refuses an audit, we have no idea what's in Fort Knox. Mnuchin says gold is safe. Interestingly worded on that one. But, to me, if someone really goes out of their way to at least provide every means possible for you to feel something safe, obviously maybe I'm a little biased here, but, should you be looking for more information, you can go to milesfranklin.com and find out about that. And to follow your research and work and all the great stuff you do, Maurice, where can people find you?
Proven and Probable.com.
You get into a lot of good ideas about bullion. I know you talk with some of the mining companies that are out there, as well as writing for Miles Franklin. So appreciate you checking in today and talking for a couple minutes. And hopefully this is good advice that can help answer some of the questions people have out there. So visit Maurice at Proven and Probable, and we will see you again soon, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus.